Hello everyone, here's our CSCI 340 database, and let's start our this chapter. So for today's chapter, we're going to start related to the relational database model. So it's kind of an introduction, so it's roughly go to all the contents. And basically we just tell about why the relational database that became a practical. Okay, and also kind of like we try to define such a basic relational database terms, so relation, tuples, or what was those the meanings. Okay, also was the major types of keys, including primary key, candidate key, foreign key. In our lab exercise, I think some of you like already heard about that. Like, what's the primary key, candidate key? Okay, we're going to cover and talk about that, and of course some terms. Okay, so we're going to say because we have multiple names, and also, we will extend a little bit more. If you remember, we talk about one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, those binary relationship. Okay, how can we really implement in a relational database? And also, next, how the relational data retrieval is like as can be in concept, and then including sled, project, or John operator. So in practical, I think most of you already try to use inner join, left join, right join, and outer join. Right? Okay, so kind of like extend a little bit more. Okay, and also understand how the join operator facilitate the data integration in relational database. So for this, what we're going to do, quickly let you know, like in 1970, okay, right here we already published is a relational model of data for the large shared data banks. Okay, we released that at that time, and then in 1980s, like early and commercially, okay, viable the relational database management system. So it became available. So it's kind of like history. That's what we covered before, and then the relational database they very was very tempting in concept in 1970s. Okay, because it kind of like wasn't easy. Okay, applicable in the real world environment for some reason related to the performance. And then when we move on, early hierarchy of the network database management system was like coming on the commercial scenes, and then was a focus on intensive market efforts by the software and hardware vendors. That time then we like so it's like going, and then the data appears to be stored in what we have been referring to as a simple or linear files, and later relational database they are like based on the mathematics. Okay, so a relational database, so we can define it kind of like collection of relations, and as a group will contain the data that like describes a particular business environment. Okay, so that's why like when we look at certain scenario, so we always looking at the business. Okay, so the environment. Okay, and then we of course sometimes we will give assumption. Okay, so in the operation, then how can we define, okay, how can we showing all those like those collection relations, including the data's, okay, activities. And in the relational terminology, so when we talk about relations, so that's we have been like referring to a simple linear files. Okay, and also we call it table. So when we sometimes talk about relation, the name, so also it means tables. Okay, and when we talk about row record, okay, tuples, that means the relation. So all these like they have different names. Okay, so in the file, because file sometimes we call it as a record. Okay, in we say it's a relation, that means the table. Okay, so tuple, so it's like this column. Okay, we describe as a field in the files. Also attributes. Okay, relation. So that's why you hear like lots of we using different terms. Okay, maybe on paper, maybe in a lecture, how I say. So all these meaning the same. Okay, when you look at the relational database right here, when we say, okay, let's go take a look at the table or the row or the record. So it's referring, okay, this row. Okay, if we talk about the column attributes, field, so they're referring, okay, vertically, okay, right here. Horizontal will be right here, and then vertical, so will be a name. So if we, no matter which name, when we say attribute, and will be referred to the column, okay? This column, this vertical one, okay, just need to know. And because we're using different names, so we talk about file, relation. So what's the differences between it? The column of a relation can be arranged in any order without affecting the meaning of data. So, but that's not true of a file, okay? And then a row of relation can be arranged in any order, but for not true of a file, okay? So right here, just be careful of it. So we can call it like the columns of relation they without affecting the data in any order. Okay, then file cannot be okay. But it makes sense, right? But because of relation, also when we design, it is more likely for relation because the orders of it, let's say right here, if we have the student name and then numbers, it doesn't matter. It won't affect. Okay, so we can able slightly, but it's an actual file, then it may be cause a problem. And also about the how about the row. Okay, so every row or column position a cell can have a single value, so which is not necessary to in a file. That's how we decide the relation. Okay, so right here. Also, and not two rows of relation are identical. So it's not necessary to in a file. So here's a later when we introduce why we need to have a primary key. Okay, so like each row should be not the same. Okay, that's why. So here's a reason. So but for file is not necessary. So that's more important. And why now when we move on, we did talk about what's primary key because in the our lab and I talk about what's the primary key. So a relation always have a unique primary key. And sometimes we call it like the key. Okay, so it's an attribute or groups of attribute. That means the columns. Okay, so why not because we say the relation. Remember, we're using keyword, then we are using the attributes. So most values are unique throughout all the rows of relation. So let's say if we have the student number, so make sure all the student number, they're unique. And actually, there's one more is that not now. Okay, not now. That means you should have a value and then should be unique. So that's the meaning of a primary key. So right here, the primary key, some example, salesperson number. Because for the name, it's possible duplicate commission percent also can be typically right here 1010, right? Or like year of hire 2020, 2001. Okay. So, and also right here custom table custom relation when we say. So all the custom numbers should be unique, but the name, sales number, or headquarters city, they can be duplicate. So here's the things. Okay. So it's a primary key. The number of attributes involved in the primary key always the minimum number of attributes that provide the uniqueness of quality. That means we try to at least like using minimum. So if we are possible to just using one attribute to form the primary key, then try to use the that um, attribute to be the primary key. So the worst case, maybe all the relations attribute combined could serve as a primary key. So later we talk about the combination. Okay, and also sometimes we have but if we do have this situation, that means all of them, then why don't you have a new attribute? That means we try to create a new column and then name it and then give it an ID. Then it would be a better way, okay, to do it. And then next we talk about what's a candidate key. So if a relation have a more than one attribute or mini group of attributes that like representing a way of uniquely like identifying the entities, so then it shall call a candidate key. Okay, so this one is like there are more than one candidate key. So one of them must be chosen to be primary key of relation. And this one is called a candidate key. Just need to know like we need to pick. So like let's say which candidate key. So really depends on the application. So like using the database, maybe you can use first candidate key, second candidate key, whatever. We do have some like alternate key. So it's a character key that like not chosen to be the primary key of the relation. So it can be called an alternate key. Okay, just so who win it, they become a primary key. So we have multiple candidate and we have chosen, and then the rest will be alternate. Okay. And next you will hear was a foreign key. For the foreign key, so it will be saying that an attribute or a group of attribute because we have the combination, right? Okay, this so they serve as a primary key so of a one relation and also appears in part it appears in another relation. So it's the foreign key in this relation. So when we call it a foreign key in this table in this relation, it should be the primary key in another table. So here, because you have your own primary key, okay? So just like if have you to better to memorize, okay, you should remember, okay, I have my own primary key, but if I contain this table's primary key, then I will call it a foreign key. So is it better to remember? So the crucial in the relational database because the foreign key is the mechanism that ties the relations together to represent like unary or binary or ternary relationship. Okay, that's how most of the time when we doing join table, okay, of course we can joining by other connection, but most of the time when we have like showing the intersection between them, of course by their the primary key and foreign key. Okay, so the foreign key attribute must have the same domain of values as primary key attribute in other relation. Okay, and also this one for the DBMS, sometimes if you have other tables on primary key, okay, so you need to update the foreign key first. That means if the table owns has a foreign key from others table, then that one's a primary key. If you need to delete that primary key, first you need to update yours. Otherwise, you cannot delete that primary key from the original table. Later you'll know more details, but just extra information you need to learn. Okay, and the domain of values two attributes as the same domain of value if the attribute have a value of same type. Let's say right here, we have the salesperson number in the salesperson and in customer. So those are three-digit whole number are the identifier for the salesperson, right? So they should be same, okay? The salesperson number. So if you look at all those tables, what we have, and then when you compare their ID, okay, they should be. And here, recall what we covered before we talked about the binary relationship, and then for the relationship, we have one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many relationship, okay? And for the one-to-many binary relationship, right here, let's say for salesperson and customer, okay, maybe a salesperson like serve in multiple customers. So salesperson number is the foreign key in the customer relation, okay? Effectively establish the one-to-many relationship between salesperson and customer. Okay, so that means that, okay, in salesperson, I don't have any customer information, but in customer table, because I want to know, okay, which salesperson following handle this customer. So I have a attribute, okay, called the salesperson number, okay, because the salesperson number can appear in different customer the records, okay, so it's a many, but each of it we only have one salesperson number. You cannot put two salesperson, three salesperson number. So that's why it's a one to many. Okay, and right here also the foreign key can be part of the primary key. So I say only part of it, but it can be like the okay of the foreign key. So right here we have the customer number, employee numbers, okay, employee, and then right here, and also customer number, salesperson number, salesperson number. So if you remember the salesperson relation, okay, and then the and customer relation. So we underline here salesperson number primary key, customer number primary key, and then salesperson is the dot underline. So right here is the referral. This one is called the foreign key, refer to the primary key in salesperson table. Okay. And also maybe the customer number right here, okay, and the employee number they're putting together. We have the like employee names or title. They can be the customer too, or somehow, and then maybe two of them, like we call the candidate keys that we choosing, and then they become a primary key. Okay, so right here, so there are two attributes. This is a group of it. Okay, and more example, including the it's the same. And then we have the many-to-many binary relationship. Okay, so what's the many-to-many? Salesperson and product. Okay, so if we have the product relation and then sales relation, um, product right here, we have like multiple products. Let's say the salesperson have you can see like two salesperson, right? Salesperson number appears like several times. Okay, 3 times right here, and then the products will appears right here like several times. That means it's more than one. So it should be the many-to-many relationship. Okay, and because first person can purchase many products, okay, and then the product can be purchased by many salesperson, okay. So it's makes sense, okay, relationship. And right here is like showing in the graph like this person can like buy 1 to 3, and this one like 1 2. So we can showing is the many to many relationship. And when we say in this way, because the intersection between all this data, okay, and because the intersection right here is the unit price. Okay, so well, right here we have the products. Okay, and then the salesperson who purchased, and then what's the intersection data will be like between these two products and salesperson, meaning is that how many products we're going to purchase the quantity right here. So how many units? Okay, and many-to-many relationship, it has their own relation in the database. Also, we can have its own attributes. Okay, it's also a kind of like entity, so it's called associative like entity. Okay, most of the time we will break down the many-to-many to one-to-many to one-to-many relationship, just like one in the middle. Okay, as a transaction. And so far right here, if you look at here, then we have the sales relation modified one. So a data attribute, okay, it's required if the data may be like stored 2 or more times in a year. Okay, so like 2 more times. And then the time attributes is like required if the data may be stored more than like once in a day. So we need to extend over here. So we need to modify it. And here, one thing you need to be careful. Later we talk about like first normal form, second normal form, and third normal form. Okay, so this one is the unacceptable for the many-to-many relationship. And when you design the table later, like if you have the project exercise, you're not it's not acceptable. Like if you putting like the product and quantity pair and right here like as a pair and then in single, here's just you can treat it as a single cell, right? So we are never putting multiple records, okay? Values like in one. So we have to like for after like first form, like we make it like every row, okay? So we make sure. Um Later we'll talk about what's the first normal form, second normal form. But right here you say it's not acceptable. Okay. And it's possible you can multiple column, but if you're extending column, sometimes you need to change the sequence. Sometimes if you're adding a row, it's easier, like when you insert the new record. So when you decide to think about how to insert a new row instead of adding a new column. Okay. And without the intersection of data, you just only selling a salesperson or like product number, they put together. And then you need to think about what's this meaning or what we are going to do. Okay, but if we have the intersection, that means we need the quantity. Okay, remember how many units. And here's the one-to-one binary relation. Okay, let's say we have the office, right? So they only have only one office. They are not staying same office together. Then it's called a one-to-one. Right here, maybe let's say we have the salesperson, customer, and then we have the customer employee right here, this table, and then with the product relation. Okay, and most important we care about is the office number. Okay, so let's say the number, the one-to-one is like, okay, you never see an office number appears twice in this record. Okay, And if we have the relation office, called office, and then the primary key is the office number, and we have the foreign key refer to the office number. So that's how it looks like. And we can ask like, can we combine the salesperson and office like to be like one relation? Then we need to ask a question. Okay, is it a good way or not? Um, it's the design like thinking, okay, because they are two different entity, okay, office and salesperson. Okay, so we later when we talk about second move on or later, then we'll say, okay, we call the direct relation or indirect relation. Okay, salesperson with the office, do they have a direct relation? Then if no, then it's do we really need to like put them together, or we need to read it to two different table? So suppose this is a better design. It's like, of course, try not to combine them to one relation, but keep them as a two relation. Okay. This one have like kind of like we need to talk about related to the data retrieval from the relation database. So discussion. Okay, that's has a like concentrate once like how the relational database is structured, and then also loading a database with data. So let's discuss the effort like to retrieve the data in a way that helpful. Okay. Okay, we can talk about that. For the relational data DBMS database management system, so we need to have the ability to accept high level data retrieval commands and also process the commands against the database relation. And then later, the last step, we need to return a desired data. That's what you're doing, try to using SLED. And we try to retrieve a horizontal slice of relation. Okay, remember horizontal because it's row, right? Every row. And then when we select the rows from salesperson, relation with the salesperson number equals to 204, then the result of a relational operation will always be relation. Okay, so it's also it's called relation when it comes out. And then the relational project operator. So we retrieve the vertical slice of the relation. So if we want to only get the vertical, so we project the sales number or name over the salesperson relation. So we can, it's called a project. And when we extract data across the multiple relations, then we have called a data integration. So a database managed system must be able to store data like non-redundantly, like when providing a data integration facility. Relational BBMS like automate the cross-relation data extraction process. So it's a way that appears that the data in relation is integrated, right? While also remaining non-redundant. So remember, we also decided non-redundant. For the data integration, the relational attribute, we're using a join command. Okay, so joining the salesperson relation and the customer relation. So we're using the salesperson number, right? So remember when we joining in the exercise too. So when you are doing the exercise, I know some of you are putting the mistake. Okay, using joining or comparing using the product ID with the customer ID. So make sure you're using the same attribute. Okay. So when we select the role and we saw, let's say customer numbers of 1525 like this, and then we just want to project, a project is the select. Okay. So select which column. Okay. And then for the salesperson name over the last result like this, so we can project. Okay. And there's more like terms that we're going to use. So let's say custom product. So we try to comparing every possible combination of two set or two relation. Okay, so when we compare, so here you could join. Okay, so joining of two fields like value are identical. If they're identical, we're joining them. And the natural join, sometimes we say natural join. So one of the two identical join column is eliminated. So this one is called the element. So most of the time we say the natural join. Okay, so one of the two identical like join columns. Okay, so it's eliminated. So we try to eliminate one. So it's the natural join. And here just give you some example. Okay, it looks like some tables. Underscore one like short line will be the primary key. Okay, and then what's the relation? So we learn the terms right here, and then we have the foreign key. Okay, foreign key. The dot underline. Okay, so refer to the publisher name. Okay, right here, and custom number. So with the double line, so it's the kinetic key. Right here with kinetic key, and then they choose and be the primary key. Okay. So right here, because we have the groups of it, okay, just need to know. And now about music, so it's showing all the tables. And let's say another table right here. So if I ask you to so okay, pick the primary key. Can you tell what is a primary key, which one foreign key? So if I give it something the really simple structure like this, then you should able to tell, okay, what's the column, or even I didn't if you see the question, okay, just remind me, if you see a question, if I giving all these tables and only have an attribute, what's the relation, and then ask you, okay, you need to select certain data, let's say which customer purchase which car, or like rent which car, this one's car, then how much they pay, okay, and which the model and year, okay, or the manufacturer. If you need to join two tables, then you need to know how to join these two tables. But in practical, you do have a data, okay, and then you can try to execute and test. But like for maybe quiz, exam, okay, assignments, then you have to try to write by your own. Okay, you can validate it by try to build it, but it will be like kind of like consume certain time. Okay, so you need to like getting familiar with those like SQL. Okay, so knowing what the possible result logically correct, and then make sure those accurate, they're right. Okay. So far, we'll be done with our introduction, okay, about relation. So we'll go through all the terms, and thank you so much.